It was 02:23 in the northern Black Sea when three Ukrainian FP-1 drones, nothing more than plywood wings, two-stroke lawnmower engines, and pure spite, crossed the invisible line into Russian-monitored waters at 180 km/h, skimming 3 meters above the black waves toward a Yuri Ivanov-class spy ship anchored 15 nautical miles off Novorossiysk like a spider that had spent 6 weeks spinning the perfect web of signals intelligence, logging every launch signature, every radio chirp, every heartbeat of Ukraine's naval drone campaign, so close to predicting the next strike before it even happened that the crew had already started writing the victory report. The drones were ghosts from the moment they left the water. Plywood gave them a radar cross-section smaller than a seagull, and within minutes their engines cooled to sea temperature, vanishing even from the thermal eye of a patrolling four-post R that dismissed them as birds and flew on, never knowing it had just waved death through the front door. Behind them, the launch site was already burning. Shaheds had arrived minutes too late and turned empty grass into fire while the operators vanished into the night with their laptops. At 3:30, the distraction began. 20 jet skis and cheap pleasure boats dressed up as Magura V5 killers stormed west toward Sevastopol at 80 km/h, broadcasting perfect signatures, spreading into textbook assault formations, lighting infrared decoys, looking on every Russian screen like the largest sea drone attack since October 2022. Doctrine took over like clockwork. 6 Ka-27PL helicopters at Novorossiysk and 4 more at Sevastopol scrambled west at 270 km/h, rotors hammering the night, racing toward ghosts, while every minute they flew west brought the real attackers another minute of clear sky to the east. By the time the pilots realized they were chasing shadows and turned back, they would be 360 kilometers out of position and half empty on fuel, leaving the spy ship naked beneath an empty sky. 0447 brought the final gauntlet, two Podlet K1 radars, whose randomized sweeps had shrunk the old predictable corridor to a razor-thin 2-kilometer slot that lasted 4 seconds every minute. The first drone slipped through clean, the second followed 30 seconds later still invisible, but the third had developed a drunken drift from a failing Chinese gyroscope and had to correct hard-burning fuel it couldn't spare, entering the collapsing window just as both radars painted it bright and clear for 2 full seconds. Alarms screamed across the Russian net, yet the operator watching 20 confirmed contacts assaulting Sevastopol and 1 probable bird heading the wrong way simply marked it bird and went back to the main show, never noticing the bird was bleeding fuel and flying on fumes and pure hatred. So 6 Nada rolled in with morning fog thick enough to chew, visibility down to 500 meters, Russian R-330 Zyuj jammers whispering GPS lies strong enough to walk. Satellites off the edge of the world. But the Ukrainians had learned too. Every 50 kilometers, an oil platform stood like a steel lighthouse, and the FP-1s reset position the old-fashioned way, Mark 1 eyeball and a photograph, because no spoofer on Earth can move 10,000 tons of steel. The second drone never saw the next platform, a $3 capacitor died, GPS went dark, inertial took over and drifted 10 meters a minute until 8 kilometers later, it simply flew into the sea and vanished without a ripple. 2 ghosts left, 0723, and the spy ship finally woke up, mineral ME radar sweeping west and finding mushy, intermittent returns that its algorithms kept rejecting as birds because wood doesn't behave like metal. The captain sent a Raptor patrol boat anyway, 35 knots, PKM on the bow. Crew drilled 1,000 times for aluminium drones with hot engines. They never trained for plywood. 0732, the lead drone, propeller already cracked from earlier hits, engine vibrating itself to pieces, burst out of the fog 500 meters off the Raptor's beam. The machine gun opened up, tracers walking across the water, 3 rounds punching clean holes through plywood, 1 clipping the prop. The engine screamed but held, 90 seconds of fuel left, and every Russian eye on the ship locked onto its death spiral, which was exactly what the Ukrainians wanted because no one was looking northwest. 734, the third drone, the one that had burned half its tank correcting course, the one flying blind on nothing but a mechanical gyroscope and spite, emerged from the fog bank 10 meters above the water at 180 km/h straight at the spy ship's port bow. The lookout had time for 1 shout. The FP-1's camera centered on the forest of antennas atop the mast, 3 R-321T arrays that could hear a radio whisper in Romania, and 25 kilograms of high explosive wrapped around a tungsten rod smashed into the mast base at 7:34:42. The detonation gutted the bridge in a heartbeat. Antennas vaporized. Computers holding 6 weeks of priceless pattern-of-life data turned to molten slag. Secondary explosions walking through power trunks like fire through dry grass. 18 hours later, when the fires finally died, the ship still floated, but its electronic eyes and ears were gone forever. Blind, deaf, lobotomized. Within 48 hours, Ukrainian naval drones were launching from new sites, new vectors, new patterns the Russians no longer understood. Moscow could still strike launch points, but now they hit empty fields and abandoned barns. The web was burned away. The Black Sea went dark again, and somewhere off Odessa, 3 plywood ghosts, built for the price of a used Toyota, had just rewritten the entire naval war. See you on the next wave on